Just 2 weeks back, there was a confession from the man that was hired to coordinate the swatting attack against me twice. He pled guilty to federal charges investigated by the FBI and prosecuted by the United States Department of Justice for being behind hundreds of calls made to various police departments, targeting individuals, religious institutions, and multiple schools and universities. In the next few minutes, you will witness the undeniable truth that leaders from my own community, including Yasser Birjas and Omar Suleiman, consciously lied, and the masjid that they are associated with, the Valley Ranch Islamic Center, did everything in their power to cover it up. But let's rewind for a moment. These leaders claimed that I staged a swatting attack against myself. But why? Over the course of the past few videos, it has become abundantly clear. It was to protect Dunya, someone close to them, from accountability. Someone proven to have had a close and comfortable relationship with both Omar Suleiman and Yasser Birjas, with Yasser coining her as the gem of the community and singing praises about her up until just 2 days prior to an attempt being taken on my life. They refused to investigate and instead fueled a campaign of misinformation, spreading falsehoods that isolated me and my family. On February 3rd, my home was raided after police received a false emergency call impersonating me. Despite providing them with video proof of the attack and pleading for help, Yasser Birjas dismissed me, claiming I was spreading half stories and that I essentially swatted myself.
We got the call, so I got actually the report, not the report, at least the verbal actually, report from the police saying that they traced the calls, eventually it came from your place.
Omar Suleiman ignored my messages for days, and after an initial set of texts between the two of us, he went radio silent, refusing to respond to me, and repeated the same lies as his buddy, his colleague, and the one he always continues to shower with praise, Yasser Birjas.
Allah SWT gave me the opportunity to talk to Sheikh Omar today, and I heard briefly for 50 minutes his side of the story. And that's when he said, basically, to answer the main question that you posed, why was nothing done, right? Why were your messages ignored? He said a couple of things. One of them, he said, because the police told him, again, he's saying the same thing. The police told him that he swatted himself. And I said, yeah, but Salman told us that there's no one to be found in the police report.
Both refused to seek the truth, instead perpetuating the lie that I orchestrated this attack against myself. After my home was attacked, my website faced a massive cyber assault from the dark web with over 36 billion hits, originating from 138 countries in less than 2 days. My personal information was exploited, with multiple credit cards being opened in my name and thousands of dollars being charged, and my family suffered unimaginable stress. Yet these leaders doubled down on their false claims, spreading them to community members and the masjid security team, labeling me as a possible threat with mental issues. Why is it that my entire life I have never had anyone attack me or my family? But the day after I published BehindVeils.com with a bombshell revelation about Dunya's lies, slander, deceit, fraud, and fictitious narratives to the police, that I had an attempt taken on my life. Then, just 2.5 months later, on April 23rd, news broke of a person known by Tor Swats who had been offering a service where people could hire him through Telegram via encrypted conversations with payment via cryptocurrency in order to coordinate swatting attacks. As you can see in this article that came out, the caller uses a signature line stating, "Hello, I just committed a crime and I want to confess. I placed explosives." Let's have a listen to one of the calls that was placed to 911 in an attempt to get me swatted.
Hello, I just committed a crime and I want to confess.
Okay, what happened?
I placed explosives in a home. It's about to go off soon.
An exact, verbatim, word-for-word match between the call that was placed against me and the article that was published 2 months later. Just over 2 weeks back, the man behind my swatting incidents confessed in federal court to orchestrating hundreds of attacks. His admission proves the lies about me were baseless and malicious. Despite this, those responsible for the slander remain silent, unwilling to admit their deceit. I have proven, without an ounce of doubt, the indisputable fact that Omar Suleiman, Yasser Birjas, and the Valley Ranch Islamic Center all relayed egregious lies and tried to cover it up. First, I shared details from the police report and a criminal court judge-signed warrant and subpoena which obtained the origins of the call, proving that the call did not come from my house. Second, I shared the Irving Police lead detective's testimony stating that the call did not come from my house and that he never even spoke to the imam. And now, the final straw. Just this past month, the FBI investigation-driven confession with the U.S. Department of Justice by the individual who coordinated and was behind the swatting attack. So we now have the person who committed the crime, who confessed to it. What other excuses are they going to try and make? What other lies are they going to try and spin to defend themselves? Where is Omar Suleiman? Where is Yasser Birjas? Where are the board members and the security team from the Valley Ranch Islamic Center? Why do they remain silent? Why do they refuse to accept responsibility? They got caught red-handed for spreading lies, and yet they want to ignore it and desperately pray and hope that everyone forgets about it by making passionate pleas for other issues around the world. I am currently working on establishing an investigation with the U.S. Department of Justice and FBI and intend on pursuing criminal charges against all those responsible, bi'idhnillah. For all of you watching, if you haven't already had a bucket of ice-cold water dumped on your face while being sound asleep with the way these so-called Muslim leaders and organizations operate, well, it's time you wake up. They are only concerned about one and only one thing: PR, public relations or public perception. It's all about their image and their reputation. Ask yourselves, why in the world would they run away from addressing this? Why is it that after 3 brothers, in addition to myself, that have come forward with mountains of evidence, they remain silent? Why is it that Omar Suleiman will preach around the world about the rights of Muslims and the importance of justice, write articles, publish books, and coin himself as an activist, but the only activism he refuses to engage in is the one dealing with allegations regarding himself and his close friend and colleague Yasser Birjas? Omar will publish articles like, "What do I do when I find out my favorite preacher is corrupt?" where he states, "To the scholars and teachers that cover for their colleagues, fear Allah, for you are betraying not only the people, but the tradition. You too will be held accountable for legitimizing an oppressor and putting people in harm's way. If people see your association as a refutation of claims, you are the strongest cover a criminal has." Maybe it's time we publish an article titled, "What do I do when I discover my favorite preacher who publicly champions justice, accountability, and integrity, actively evades responsibility for their own ethical failures, moral lapses, and breaches of trust while damaging the community they serve?" That might be the longest title of an article you've ever come across, but it's befitting of these hypocrisy-ridden preachers. Subhanallah, they want you to minimize and deflect any form of responsibility or having to take accountability. And when issues gain large-scale coverage, such as Wissam's, they'll simply put out a pretty PR statement that, "We're shocked and we're with you, and we all need to do our best to be watchful and speak up before stuff like this happens." Cut the nonsense and rubbish. Valley Ranch Islamic Center, Al-Maghrib, Yaqeen, Qalam, and many more. You have made it crystal clear that despite calls for investigations, despite pleas for help, despite mountains of surmounting indisputable evidences, you'd rather look the other way and ignore it. There is one word I'd like to get painted on a nice big canvas and personally white glove deliver to all of you: hypocrisy. And for those looking to relocate overseas and flee from being held accountable, please send me your address and I'll ensure it gets delivered there. I mean, after all, I've heard from multiple sources that Omar Suleiman is in Qatar planning to move in the next few months, which is rather convenient. especially at a time when morale across Yaqeen employees is at an all-time low. There will be some interesting things that unfold soon, especially as they've appointed a deputy CEO, Muhammad Ashur, soon after the video of Omar making racist and derogatory comments about Desis and Pakistani women was released. And then there is news that a search is underway for another imam at Valley Ranch, where Yasser Birjas is currently the imam. Allow me to remind you both, you can run, but you cannot hide from the justice of Allah. Imagine you're on the ground bleeding, and they come up to you, tell you to be patient, and then, when you're not looking, pour a bag of salt on that wound. That's exactly what they did when they started circulating lies and baseless allegations against me. I don't think people understand the gravity of that. How demented and psychologically deranged I would have to be in order to stage a swatting attack and risk being killed. Later on, an officer telling me that had I made just one errant move, they were ready to shoot with the assumption that I had just committed murder and was about to kill myself. These false narratives and slander have inflicted irreversible harm. Throughout all the lies, the attacks, and the threats, the emotional toll on my family has been devastating. My wife had to suffer the pain beyond what anyone could ever imagine. Due to the immense stress and being subject to constantly hearing lies and slanderous comments about her husband in community gatherings and being ostracized once people found out that she was my wife, the anxiety, the stress during her pregnancy caused her to bleed for nearly 6 months with multiple trips to the emergency room and eventually ending up having a miscarriage. The pain, the anguish, the anger that followed the suffering, and having to bury my own son. By Allah, you have no idea of the dua that has been invoked. That Allah send down a vicious storm in an effort to seek justice for such malice and evil. May Allah expose and humiliate these evil people who wear this badge of perceived religiosity. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbi. To Yasser Birjas, Omar Suleiman, and all those involved who induced and caused so much pain and anxiety and then decided to ban me from the house of Allah for speaking the truth. If you do not apologize, Wallahi, uqsum billah, I will hold this against you on the day of judgment in the court of Allah. And by Allah, know that if you have a chance to seek my mercy and forgiveness in this life, I will not have an ounce of mercy towards you on the day of judgment. And for all of you who are watching and witness to this, let it be known and inscribed, both within your comprehension and the angel recording every word of mine as I speak. Let it be known that these are liars, deceitful liars. Their silence and restraint in addressing this is indicative of the fact that they are beings of evil, corruption, and deceit. You have a chance to repent in this world. In the next, you will only be met with my wrath, and I will, bi'idhnillah, seek full retribution and restitution. And for each of you who remains quiet, all while being affiliated with them in their circles, may Allah humiliate you for the harm, the pain, and the suffering you have caused to me and my family.